July 19th, 2026, MetLife Stadium. Spain have just won the World Cup, and every man in that squad has earned 755,000 euros for it. A month of work, the hardest prize in football. Now look up. 60 feet above the confetti, behind glass, there's a man who didn't run a single yard all tournament. He arrived an hour ago. He'll stay 5 more minutes. He'll shake perhaps a dozen hands, pose for a handful of photographs, and leave before the stadium empties. Here is what that afternoon is worth. Retired legends of his rank are listed publicly by the agencies that rent them out at over $200,000 per appearance. One afternoon. Roughly a quarter of what a Spain player just earned for winning the entire tournament. Which means 4 of them. 4 handshakes, 4 hotel ballrooms, 4 afternoons, and a retired man has out-earned a World Cup winner's medal. And he can do 4 afternoons in a month. The winner has to wait 4 years. So here's the question this video answers. Who actually earned more from this World Cup? The men who won it, or the retired legends watching them do it? Because once you see how this economy works, you will understand why the smartest contract in football is the one you sign after you retire. I gave you that number in 10 seconds. It took the football industry 20 years to stop hiding it. And it is still only visible in one corner of this market. Speaker bureaus. The agencies that rent out famous people by the afternoon. Go to one right now, and you will find Ronaldinho, World Cup winner, Ballon d'Or winner, retired since 2018. Sitting on a page beside a booking fee band and a telephone number. Over $200,000, publicly listed. And look at what the page actually sells. Not football, a corporate dinner, a meet and greet, a virtual call, a social media campaign, an endorsement. This is not a rumor and it is not a leak. It is a menu, and anyone with the budget can order from it. 2 things about that number matter more than the number itself. The first, it is a floor, not a ceiling. A bureau publishes a band because it wants the phone to ring. The serious money in this economy never touches a public page at all. And we will get to what that looks like. The second, the champion side of the ledger is worse than it looks. That 755,000 euros is gross. Taxed across the countries these players work in, roughly half of it disappears. The appearance fee is negotiated per event, per market, and can be structured. The medal money cannot. So the gap I showed you at the start is the conservative version. That's the visible edge. The published corner of the market. Everything else sits behind non-disclosure agreements. But the visible edge tells you where the invisible market starts. So who writes these checks? Start with the most expensive rooms in world sport. This World Cup, official hospitality, was sold by one company. On location, FIFA's exclusive partner. Entry price, $2,500 for a single match. The top package at MetLife, 8 matches ending with the final, listed at $73,200 per person. Private boxes for a venue run past $100,000. Now, food and a padded seat don't justify those numbers, or what justifies them is the room. And what makes the room is who walks through it. That's the product a legend sells, not football. Presence. A sponsor pays for the box, invites their 12 most important clients, and for 5 scheduled minutes, a World Cup winner walks in. Every guest gets a handshake and a photograph. That photograph outlives the match. The deal that gets closed in that box pays for the legend 100 times over. And FIFA builds the supply chain itself. 13 fan festival sites this summer officially advertising, quote, appearances from FIFA legends. Fanatics Fest in New York put Beckham, Qatar, Roberto Carlos, Rio Ferdinand, and Sneijder on the floor. 2 days before the final, FIFA staged an entire Legends Cup. 8 teams, 18 matches, nearly 100 retired stars, Casillas, Puyol, Cafu, Totti, Kaká. 100 legends in one place. The same weekend, the world's cameras arrived. Here's the uncomfortable logic. A sponsor can't rent Lamine Yamal on final week. He's busy, he's regulated, and he might get injured or sent off on Saturday. The retired legend has no fixture list, no manager, and no risk. His World Cup already happened. Nobody can take it away, which makes him the only man in football whose stock can't fall on a bad result. Handshakes are the retail tier. Above them sits wholesale, the ambassador contract. In 2021, David Beckham signed with Qatar ahead of the 2022 World Cup. The reported terms, around £15 million a year, for 10 years, £150 million to be the face of a tournament he'd never play in. But here's the detail that matters more than the money. Nobody outside the room knows the real number. Some reports put the full package at $277 million. Neither side has ever confirmed a figure. The gap between the reports is 100 million wide, and that gap is the point. At the wage tier, contracts leak. At the legacy tier, they're sealed. Qatar didn't stop at one, Cafu, Xavi. Unveiled as global ambassadors, fees never disclosed, not rumored, not leaked, simply never disclosed. The retirement economy's biggest numbers live in a hole shaped like a non-disclosure agreement, and we can only measure its edges. And in 2026, the institution went fully public. FIFA Legends revealed the tournament schedule on camera. Legends fronted the fan sites, and at halftime in the final itself, the first halftime show in World Cup history, Madonna was joined on stage by Ronaldinho and Ronaldo, two retired Brazilians, center stage at a final between Spain and Argentina. Neither kicked a ball, both were paid to be seen. If you're enjoying seeing football's hidden ledgers actually opened. That's what this channel does every week. Subscribe, because next week we open another payslip they'd rather keep closed. So why does the price of a footballer go up when he stops playing football? 3 reasons, and they're all economics. 1. Scarcity. Football makes new stars every season, but it can't make new legends. There will only ever be a handful of living men who lifted that trophy as icons of their era. Every year, that supply shrinks. Assets with shrinking supply and growing demand do one thing: appreciate. 2. Risk. An active star is a live position. One torn ligament. One scandal. One bad transfer from losing value. A legend is settled stock. His highlight reel is finished, edited, and perfect. A brand that signs the memory buys the peak with none of the downside. 3. Audience. The executives who approve sponsorships are in their 50s. The legend isn't selling to the fans of today. He's selling to the boys who watched him in 2002, who now run marketing departments and sovereign wealth funds. Nostalgia isn't a feeling in this market, it's purchasing power. Put those together and you get the strangest asset in sport, a footballer whose value peaks after his legs give out, because what's being sold was never his legs. It was the proof that he once did the impossible, frozen where no bad season can touch it. Here's the framework that explains everything you've just seen. Call it the legacy dividend. A footballer earns 2 kinds of money. The first is the wage, paid for what your body does this season. It's the biggest number in the papers, and it has a fatal flaw. It stops. Every wage in football expires the day the legs do. The second is the dividend, paid not for playing, but for having played. It starts small, while the wage looks enormous, but it compounds. Every replay of your greatest goal, every anniversary, every World Cup that invites the old kings back to bless the new one, the dividend grows. The wage dies at 35. The dividend pays forever. Now run the 2 columns side by side. A Spain winner's bonus this summer, €755,000, the best wage money in international football. Beckham's reported ambassador deal pays him that much roughly every 3 weeks. For a decade. For 0 minutes played. That's the final irony of the modern game. The World Cup's best paid squad wasn't wearing boots. It was upstairs, behind the glass, being paid a dividend on matches it played 20 years ago. The most profitable move in football, it turns out, is the one every player dreads, hanging them up. So next time the camera cuts to the luxury boxes, look closer. That's not a retirement party. That's the best run business in football, collecting. If you want to see whose ledger we open next, subscribe. The biggest numbers in this sport are the ones nobody prints, and finding them is exactly what Wage Bill is for.